Hello, and welcome back to our midweek campaign called Threads of Chaos. You've joined us for our second session. So, before we begin, I just want to introduce one of the players who weren't here last time. That's Brooke at the right at the end. There we have Brooke. So, we are one player down today. The other player, Mauricio, will be joining us slightly later, but we may as well begin. So, as we start today's episode, we find the party traveling down southward, leaving the very safe grounds of the Dawn Republic, traveling down the Gold Throne Road. They begin to find themselves almost completely covered in shadow. It is about midday, the sun is at its highest, but these mountain peaks are so vast and wide that they just hide anything that gets within even a kilometer, 2 kilometers. They stretch so far and wide. The Howling Mountains are a presence in Calzaria that stretch from the west all the way over to the east, and if stuck within them, you do not know which way you are looking, as the sun is completely engulfed by the very tall peaks of these mountains. As you are approaching currently on your cart alongside Tuco, your companion who is kind of joined you along this journey. He has paid to enter your services as escorts down towards Bellavia as the two parties are heading in that direction. So with Tuco and kind of like your horses in tow, you are traveling closer and closer to the Howling Mountains. One thing that is a prevalence and is almost a haunting reminder of how tall these mountains are is this perpetual whistling sound that just kind of wisps past in the very tall peaks of these mountains. They stretch so high that even the clouds sometimes break and you can't really see the very peaks. But you do see the stream of clouds that move between the peaks with a rushing sensation going from west to east and then east to west. These wind tunnels that just kind of seem to almost gather at a abnormal rate, just create these whistling and howling sounds that brings the name the Howling Mountains. As you are kind of traveling in this direction and have been for the last 3 or 4 hours, you eventually come across almost a barrier of sorts. You see it far away before you get anywhere close. You see a massive stone gate that stretches across 2 of these large mountains. A single piece of stone that just completely cuts off the entire access of where the Gold Throne Road goes. You can see there are almost like small batteries of garrisons, and you can see reinforced areas of stone as well as wood and metal, indicating that this is some fortification. For Ulrin, if you would like to, you can roll a history check at advantage.
Yep. There you go.
18. So you have a bit more of a connection to this place. With your background being a cleric of Moradin, you know some history about the Howling Mountains itself. This northern gate is known as Ira's Gate. It is the barrier between the Ebrith dynasty as well as the Dawn Republic. It stops any incursions that would originate from the Howling Mountains and going into the central of Calzaria, and it is a well-fortified piece of stonework. Now, Ira themselves was a master back in the day, a high priestess of Moradin, and with an 18, if you could roll a religion check for me, just to see if you can gather more info on the religious side of things. 10. So you kind of remember just the bare minimum of this person of interest. This is dating back in an age where thousands and thousands of years had passed, and this is slightly after the gods had completely disappeared from the face of Kurthayek. There was a period of time where the gods walked amongst men. This was referred to as the Dawn of the Titans. And they sequestered themselves away to a plane outside of human contact. during that period of time when they left, that's when the era now known as Twilight's degradation began to come into effect. This is where monsters, different incursions from beasts and aberrations and infernal creatures had begun to uproot itself and find their way into the material plane, as well as other planes as well, trying to get anything they can from humanity as well as the rich resources that the prime material plane held. One of the figures that was blessed with power by Moradin was Ira. Ira had created this wall, this defense system, this Ira's Gate, to stop any incursions coming from the Howling Mountains. There were infernal creatures, there was monstrosities that would climb out from the depths that were hidden within these mountain ranges and would incur themselves and try to take over what is known, or what was known back then as the Holy Bastion of Trasvalar. Now there are many cities and towns that this wall protects, but that was its origin. That's what it was created for. So Moradin has some ties with the Howling Mountains in terms of its past. In terms of recent history, nothing really kind of catches your mind, but at least a bit of knowledge you do have from this. As well, Ira was referred to as a high priestess of Moradin, but also a master thread spinner of silk and stone. She had a way about silk and stone and being able to create cloth out of both, as well as armaments and weapons. So she would be one of the key masters that you would have heard about during your training. But yeah.
I lean out of the wagon. Feast your eyes on the marvel of past. Over there you see the work of our predecessors, our ancestors. I'm Ira, the thread spinner of silk and stone.
And you see Helen would just be kind of writing down like kind of what you're saying and doing like a little doodle of the big stone thing.
Helen, you also notice Tuco, this very small, probably about up to knee height Oran, that is a frog humanoid person, green lime skin with a slight kind of oil slick against their skin. You can see they have a small book as well and are intently writing in it with everything that Oran is saying.
Yeah, I start recounting past events and the relevant history of Ira's Gate. Mm-hmm. More enthusiastically now that people are writing about it.
As you kind of continue, you see, as you kind of mention Ira, you see Tuco just kind of like look up. Her name, last name is Hithaldra. I have notes. And he just kind of comments that as that being a family name.
Oh. Well, I would certainly like to read them when we have time.
He nods. I'm happy to share. As you are approaching closer and closer, who is at the helm controlling the horses? I assume Axon?
Yeah.
That's okay. Fine. During this time, as you get closer and closer, those whipping sounds of the wind grow louder and louder. And for you guys, you are aware that this is a presence in Calzeria. And as you grow closer, you can hear it grow louder and louder. But the horses, you see them begin to kind of almost freak out slightly with the sounds. It's quite overbearing for their sensitive ears. So I'm going to need you to roll a animal handling check for me to see if you can kind of quell their sensibilities.
$18.
Okay. You kind of reach over, and what does Axon do to try and calm them down?
Well, I will try. I mean, first I will slow the speed a bit down so they would be, less afraid of what, like, and then I would just, calmly talk something like, which has absolutely no meaning, but more like, you know, to calm and to, yeah, you know.
You kind of just soothe over any sort of like stress they may be suffering under in this moment. You do see a couple of them kind of raise their legs and just kind of like shake off whatever sounds were beginning to freak them out. But with your kind of aid and kind of soothing it over, you see the horses kind of just get back in the saddle and kind of prepare themselves to get closer to this gateway. And how are you guys approaching? Are you all going to be inside of the caravan? Are you going to get out of the caravan as soon as you get closer? What's the lineup of your party?
Helen would kind of watch. Can we like see through the front of the caravan as well?
Yeah, you can. So the way that the awning has been placed currently is that half of it has been pulled forward. So you have the back end of it is open to the elements. It's just kind of like a wooden base, and you've got some sides to it, but it's all open air. And then on the second half, closer to the horses, you have a curtain that's draped open currently, where you can see Axon kind of riding. You can kind of see forward as well, but the rest of it is all covered in a tarp. So it keeps you out from the sun as well.
Yeah, okay. Should just kind of keep an eye, kind of move to the kind of front portion just to like keep a watch kind of, but would like armor up and everything just in case.
Sure. As you're kind of giving an eye, you can see you're getting closer and closer now, but this wall is huge. It reaches up to not even the same height as one of the mountains, rather it reaches up to about 3/4, but the mountains themselves go up kilometers high. So this is a very, very tall piece of stone that is just there present. Watching and looking, you can see that etched into the actual mountains, there seems to be a figure, a feminine figure that is etched into it as if the stone has been carved by a hand. And it's only now that you can see it. A lot of erosion from the wind and bad weather has kind of left it slightly deformed, but you notice a feminine silhouette. And from what Olrin has just told you, you assume that to also be Ira. If you want to, you can roll this will be either a nature or history check to see if you can gather any information of the surroundings as you're watching and looking.
Let's see. What am I better at? Can I do history then? Let's see.
Yeah, if you'd like to.
Oh. Never mind.
I'd say with your kind of artistic eye and kind of the stories and things that you've heard, you notice that there are key elements in the stonework of this mountain. The imagery depicted, you can see that it seems to be of a feminine figure, but a race which is of a stone ganassi. So you can see a stone ganassi clearly there. The features are there, even though there are cracks and kind of bits of stone kind of flexed and broken off. You get the sense that some of that is intentional. Perhaps that Ira was actually made of stone and had some elements of her that was broken and cracked throughout the years. In terms of what you see looking forward, the mountains seem to present some harsh terrain, and the wind carries what looks like bits of like shale, bits of loose rock and rubble that just kind of fly in the air, but it's like fine dust that you just see whip past. You get the sense that perhaps walking through valleys of open space in this mountain peak might leave your cart either flying or yourselves flying as well if you're not prepared for it. So you just kind of have that awareness to you. Strong gusts of winds seem to be very prevalent in the mountains. But yeah, you grow closer and closer, and then eventually you find yourselves at the very kind of base of this huge grey stone wall. As you arrive, you can see that there are two tower struts that are embedded into the side of the wall. You can see portcullises just kind of like accenting upwards, and you see bits of light from the inside. At this point now, looking up, you do also see that there are ballista at the top of the wall. They're not faced outwards, they're rather faced in towards the mountain. You could only see it just barely because they themselves are still small in comparison to the rest of the wall. There's maybe about 7 or 10 up there, but it's hard to tell from this distance. Eventually, coming down from one of the towers on the left-hand side, you can see that there are 2 individuals that are walking towards you. You see one dressed in this kind of purple and green attire, very ceremonial looking, large shoulder pads made of like a gold color, as well as a large silver-plated chest piece. But the tabards and the accents and coloring is all in purple and green. This is the colors of the Everett dynasty. He himself walks with this kind of like general demeanor, very kind of stern-faced, and you can see looks to be a bugbear. Large, long-limbed, slightly furred skin, as well as this kind of very mean face with a helm atop it, made of silver as well. You can see he just kind of walks stridently forward. Not the tallest bugbear you've seen, probably about 6 foot, 5 foot or so. They usually range quite taller because they are quite limber and lean, but he begins to walk towards you. By his side, you can see that there is another individual wearing kind of silver and blue colors, less of the heavy metals and rather wearing leather strips that have been dyed and painted. This individual seems to be from the Dawn Republic. These are the colors of the Dawn Republic. And you see that the 2 of them are just kind of like walking beside each other, but the bugbear kind of stridently moves forward. As he approaches, he gives a slight wave to you. His hands are quite big, probably about the size of someone's head. And he just gestures over. Who goes there?
Well, I will like pull the leashes, I think it's called, and stop the horses and wave him back. Just a bunch of humble travelers.
Humble travelers. And
Yes,
are you
sir.
heading southward?
Yes, we are heading to the Bellevue.
Bellevue. What is your business in Bellevue?
Well, we we accompany this fine gentleman, and I point in Tuko. And
He just waves.
And the second, we were summoned there.
You were summoned. Is there a letter?
Yes. Probably yes, but it's not the invitation, not an official invitation, as like I presume. It's more like invitation, informal invitation. Yeah, if I can put it that way.
Understood. And are you traveling straight to Bellevue, or are you heading to somewhere else in between?
Well, straight to Bellevue, as far as I know, unless this fine gentleman wants to stop somewhere in between.
Tuko gives a slight half smile. No. And he just shakes his head. Understood. Are you aware of the dangers that lie within the Howling Mountains?
You mean the devils or something more sinister?
The devils are your least problem. There are natural dangers of the Howling Mountains that you should probably be aware of before you enter its abode. And he begins to look over each one of you. You don't exactly look truly prepared to enter these mountains.
Since you've been guarding this place, would you have suggestions of preparations we should take?
Well, I would first lose them, and he points over to the horses. Problematic. They're always a problem.
Oh no. They're not always the problem.
You mean because of the howling? I'm sure friend Axon can keep them calm.
That is not the only problem that they bring. The horses are seen as fresh meat for the gnolls and the howlers that live within these mountains. And not to mention the Yetis, although they prefer humanoid blood.
If we are to be eaten all the same, I would prefer to outpace them with the horses than without.
You'll find many tricky avenues. The Howling Mountains are a tricky line to follow. You will find pits made of sand and holes that descend ever so down and towards the Underdark. It will be a dangerous fare with them, but you're not the first to do so. I only bring this to your attention.
And I thank for your advice. Is there perhaps some kind of map, maybe a ranger who could help us find the way?
We don't tend to have guides, yet I do have one individual that is needing to go to the southern entrance. They could try to accompany you if you wish.
I look back at my companions. I say we meet this person.
I look at the cart. Are there any free or empty places for that person? Because we have already a lot of people riding this cart. Will it fit in another one?
The weight, the horses can carry all of you on board, including one extra. Tuco doesn't weigh anything. The rest of you can. 2 people can basically sit at the helm, and there's enough space for you guys to sit within inside.
Yeah, I'm waiting quite a lot because I am wearing quite a heavy armor.
Yeah.
That's why I ask. But yeah, of course, if this person will accompany us and show us the safe roads, then I think it would be beneficial for us and for him, because he would reach his destination safe and sound.
Very well. And how capable fighters are you? From a glance, not very much, it seems.
I have from the temple of I have from the temple of Moradin. I can't say I've been to war, yet I've had some training.
You see, he kind of looks at you and slightly rolls his eyes. Another one. Are you here to free the temple of the Yetis?
I was not aware that the temple was besieged by Yetis. Could you tell me more?
He nods, and he just kind of gives a half smile. My friend can tell you. I will go and get Zemoralk. She will guide you forward. And you see the bugbear just kind of turns his back and gives a slight chuckle to himself as he heads into this plain bit of stone, which has no doorway access, no windows or anything. It's just a clear piece of stone. He walks up to it, and you see him pull out a device by his side, and he presses it against the stone, and it just disappears. This chunk of it just kind of folds away, and he begins to step through onto the other side. You are left with this elven-looking individual with a kind of brightly yellow, with an orange tint skin. The cheeks are kind of bright red, young male-looking figure with strawberry blonde hair that kind of goes back behind the ears. Seems to be a summer Eladrin. As he kind of turns to look at the rest of you. Oh, well, you want to hear about what happened with Moradin and the temple? Well, it's not the nicest tale, I'll be honest. A few years ago, we had a bit of an issue where a relic was stolen by a very powerful sorceress, and it basically left the entire thing fucked, destroyed. So you can't really go back there. However, some people have tried to try and recover what was left. I hear there's some treasure and things like that. I don't really know. But people have gone in but never came out. And the only things that we've seen on the edge of where it lays is frozen bodies. Decapitated, limbs missing. That's all thanks to the Yetis.
And could you share with... could you share with us the name of that sorcerer who left this? Or do you know the name of the
Oh,
sorcerer?
please, everyone knows their name at this point. Werner Decker was their name.
Oh, yeah, I have heard about this one.
Yes, quite a little sinister bugger, but gone now, thank God.
Can you tell of what happened to the clergy?
As far as I'm aware, all of them disappeared. She
Disappeared.
wasn't. Well, she
presume
wasn't.
they're dead.
She wasn't the. She didn't love divinity that much, and anyone that followed them wasn't really seen too lightly, and she wouldn't really let them by either. So they're probably all dead. As perhaps some of them left and found their way into Trasvalar. I don't know. I wasn't here then. I only know the stories.
Do I know of any people who have fled to Trasvilar of this temple?
I'd say, yeah, that there's quite a few that have arrived at the Temple of Moradin. This event, from your memory, seems to take place about 20 plus years ago at this point now. Back when there were these threats arising simultaneously. And you remember just an influx of people coming into Trasvalar. Borders were being opened between the dynasty, the Republic, and the Vorid Empire. All three of them converging and kind of intermingling at this point. And Trasvalar became a hub for that because all were welcome. So Moradin gained quite a few followers during that time. And since then, have grown in a steady pace. In terms of people from the temple, you have seen Moradin priests that you had never seen before, both injured as well as looking for somewhere to stay, and they stayed, mainly due because either their temple was gone or destroyed or abandoned. You assume that a few of these people could have been that.
As
You
a
just
cleric
kinda-
of
Go on.
As a cleric of Moradin myself, I feel it is my obligation to at least look at the place, though I would not risk your lives lightly. I'd ask for your consent first.
I hardly doubt that it's on the way. Because I believe it's in the mountain, isn't it?
Well, you'll be traveling through the mountains, so the path gets a little windy from here onwards, I'll be honest. There's something strange about these mountains. There's no singular path that's the quickest. It's as if though the mountains are moving themselves. Bollocks, I know. Doesn't really make sense. But think of it as every road is a new experience. And even we don't know which way to go. We just have a good understanding of these mountains. So hopefully Z will be able to help you down south.
Well, it's definitely remind me of one particular place I'm quite familiar with, but alright. Interesting. And does this phenomena has any explanation? Like why those mountains behave, or what is like the reason that each path is the unique one and you never know where it will lead you?
It's all about mysticism, really. I'm not a man of faith myself. I'm
I mean,
a bit more
me neither.
see and do what I see, but in terms of what I've heard about this place, I heard it was created when the gods had made this world. It was created by Corlin, painted pretty much everything, the landscapes. But I also heard that Calzeria was much larger, and all of these mountains were just compressed together. Bits of the land just smushed like a sandwich. But I don't know.
Interesting story. Tuko, do you know anything about it or the reason?
You see Tuko begins to kind of look in his book. No, I don't remember much of the Howling Mountains. But I remember something that it was a prison for something. I don't know what.
Interesting. Well,
Has my sorry.
no, go ahead.
Has my religion taught me anything about this place? Like during temple
General
studies
lore?
or something?
I'd say what he said about Corallan seems to be the general understanding of how these mountains were formed. However, through the thousands and thousands of years that this world has kind of been alive for, many things have caused these mountains to form. There have been powerful sorcerers and elemental magics that have like collided together and have created these mountains to rise upwards higher than they should have formed through natural means, at least. They hide many secrets, both known and unknown, and societies seem to live within these mountains. Although it is barren for the most part, uninhabitable, life always finds a way to grow within these places, and that seems to be no difference to the Howling Mountains. The Howlers, who are infernal creatures that live within the mountain peaks, not within the ground, they were originally seen as like almost like pets, like house dogs, mascots that then grew into these abominations due to just the presence of the Howling Mountains, warped and twisted to become these kind of infernal beings. But the world is always shifting. You can roll a religion check to see if this word of the prison rings anything in your mind.
Yeah, I'll take that as a no.
Unfortunately not. No, it doesn't ring any bells. But that could just mean that the people who find themselves in the Howling Mountains and lost, it could be their prison. At this point,
can I quickly ask a question?
Yeah, go for it.
I have one spell which is like which I can cast at will. Called Augury, I think you know it. Do I need still the components, or is it without?
We'll say you have them. We'll say you have them.
Okay. Yeah. So I will then throw some. Well, first of all, when we are waiting for that guy to get another one, our like guide, I will take one small not the like parchment. In this parchment is like wrap some bones within, and I will carefully spread it around. Take those bones, and toss it, and try to ascertain if we will, go and look for that temple. If it will be, which result will we get?
Mm-hmm. Okay, just remind me what the results are. What are the names of the
wheel and woe, or nothing.
Okay, you lay them down onto the ground in your palm as you're just rolling these bits of occultish items that you carry around with you. Upon casting the spell, you see that they land in a way which brings wheel. You sense positivity, and then you hear just the wind wash by, and then they all flip over, and then it goes to woe.
Oh well. Seems fate is quite whimsical today. I think it might lead to good results and bad results, depends. So I don't know if we want to risk it, and we still have a task of accompanying this good man safely, and I put emphasis on safely to his end goal.
It seems where we go in the mountains is not entirely in our control either way. Let's first see where the path takes us.
That's true, but I would not risk others' life just to, or some.
At this point, as you are still kind of discussing back and forth with this guard, eventually the large Eberithian bugbear returns back, and you can see accompanied by their side, smaller stature, probably standing at about 5 feet. You see this kind of bulky-looking female figure with a knapsack over the back and seemingly wearing just kind of loose leathers, tabard around like a skirt, basically. And you see mostly dressed with very faded colors of the Everett Dynasty. You see purples and greens. She herself has shaved sides on the side of her head and a long single ponytail on the top. She seems to be of hobgoblin race, and she has a kind of like a slight pinkish skin to her, snub nose, pointed ears as well as a kind of a constant glare look that most of the hobgoblins have. As the bugbear arrives, you see he just kind of like dresses over towards her. This will be your guide heading down southward. This is Z Moralk. She is one of our members here at the Iris Gate, and she will be taking you down southward to one of our secondary outposts. You see, she just kind of like gives a nod. Yeah, no worries. I'll be taking you down south. Hopefully, all of you guys can look after yourselves. No babysitting here, so we move quick.
Yeah, I throw a
Pleasure
last
to be
look.
meeting you.
I throw a last look like at those, bones. Carefully wrap them back and put it back in my pockets and look at her. Well, yeah, we are not babies, so you're welcome and hop right in. I hope you will have a fast and like pleasurable like journey.
She gives a nod. Right, let's do this then. As she jumps onto the side of the cart with you guys, she just places her bag straight inside of the cart. No real worries. She doesn't really have many things with her, but she's just blasé about it. She just kind of looks over. Gatekeeper, Hivul, can you open it for us, and we'll head through on the horses. She also kind of like reaches into the bag. I've got some ear defenders, but I've only got a few. If anyone needs them, I'll place them here. And she places in these kind of like, basically like a leather strap around her ears, and they kind of cup over. And you see that's like some sort of protection device for her ears. And she leaves 2 more on the table.
Yeah. Helen would grab one and put it on. She figures this woman knows what she's talking about, and would kind of reach out a hand towards her as she gets in the back of the cart, and with like a slightly raised voice, just, Helen, lovely to meet you.
Oh, you're quite forward. Z.
Oren.
Okay. Who else have we got here?
Can I put like the earbuds on myself and Mushu?
You can. I don't know how that. You can fuck it. Give it a shot. Roll a sleight of hand check for me to see if you can get away with doing this.
Shouldn't the remaining pair go to Exon, considering he's steering our cart?
No.
I mean, it depends on the saving throw, honestly. If it will be like
16. You have basically a headset, and you're trying to put it on 2 heads. So the best you can do is placing Mushu, your pseudo dragon's head, next to yours, and placing the headphones on both heads simultaneously. That's the plan. Okay, fair enough. Moving around and everything might be a little bit tricky, but certainly works. You put them on, and there is a slight kind of muffled sound to everything, but at least you can't hear the gales of wind that are just bursting through at this point. She kind of like looks over Z, just continues. All right, so we have Helen, Orin, girl who just stole the headset. What's your name?
Basically.
May seal it. Okay, cool. Guy at the helm.
Excellent, pleasure to meet you.
Excellent. You see, Tuco gives a wave.
And this fella here is Cal.
Hi, hello. He kind of like gestures over. My name's Cal. All right, cool. Are you all friends?
Associates.
Yes,
Oh,
we've
excellent.
met recently. I know Kel from a while back. Other than that, we've been strangers for most of the time.
Strangers is great because if we need to abandon any of you, we don't really care. Cool. Excellent. Onwards we move.
Yeah, then please hold tight. I don't want to abandon anyone, so don't fall off.
Yeah, Helen would kind of try and sit very like square in the middle of the cart, given what like they said about the wind like tipping the cart. She doesn't want to put it even more off balance, so she's gonna try and like as if we were in a little rowboat, try to keep it very steady.
Okay, you're trying to anchor down the boat by sitting in the dead center. Anchor the cart rather. Okay, cool.
I want to try if I can twist some leather scraps into makeshift earplugs for the rest of the group.
I think that's easily done. With your skills and crafts, you make something which is usable, not fashionable, practical. You make something that can cup over the ears and has like a string that connects over the head to kind of hold them tight there. Well done. So you create one for everyone else.
Yeah, start handing them out. Doesn't look as pretty, but it should at least do the same job.
You see Z just kind of puts a thumbs up. Good thinking. Oh, good thinking! She like shouts a bit louder.
What?
Can't hear you. Sorry. She like mouths to herself. This is good.
I will start moving.
All right. You head through. So the stone wall gives way. It just opens up as the bugbear places this device that he has, this kind of like cylindrical silver metal piece. He places it into the side of the wall, and you see the entire thing like a hologram just almost becomes transparent, and almost like you can see the actual compositions of stone from the inside, like it's being carved out and like taken away. You can see on the other side of it. As the cart drives through, you can see that the stonework which interlays in this like tunnel now is made with striations and perfectly carved. For Orin, you're seeing a master crafter at his work. You're seeing perfectly layered like parts of sediment that is just kind of placed there, reinforced bits of metal hidden behind a stone, metal again, dirt to kind of bolster and take on any sort of any damage, as well as any kind of like earthquakes and so on and so forth, something malleable and can move with the change of the ground. And as you just continue, it takes you about a good 5 minutes of riding in the cart before you arrive on the opposite side of this wall. And by the time you leave, you see that gate, that doorway, just become a solid piece of stone once more. And now what you see ahead of you is just winding paths where mountains intersect. You see bits of overhanging mountain which have been carved out through the center to create a rough guise of some sort of path. You can see large trenches diving downwards, creating valleys below, and just the wind continues to blow back and forth. So, as we begin the journey forward, I would like... We had Axon roll a d20 last time. We had, I think, Marie, you rolled a d20 as well last time? Or did someone else did?
I think I did.
Okay, we'll jump over to Marie this time then. So Marie, if you could roll a d20 to see how the weather fares. Again, d20s, you want the highest number possible. The lowest number means something pretty bad's coming.
Come on, another one.
Why do you want to know?
I'm trying to figure out how to do this.
Straight to the Yeti temple.
So if you look at the bottom right, there should be the d20 dice. If you're on the chat log on the right hand side, there you go. 13.
Just
lucky number 13, as they always say. So as you're traveling on this path, the wind is howling. It is rupturing the ears of many. And I ask, Orin, are you making ear devices for the horses?
Yeah.
Okay.
I
For the horses,
considering-
because it's a more specialty item, I will need you to roll a crafting check for this. So leather workers tools.
Okay, I give myself guidance because this seems important. Which attribute?
So this will be wisdom because you're using your knowledge in the craft.
Okay.
$15. Okay. You make decent sized. You make them so they latch. Basically, like the harness that they wear, the bits of strips of leather that are already there. You basically fasten adjustments to it, where you've added a coupling that goes over, almost like a leather cap, towards the back end and holds their ears in tight. But you see they kind of like wrestle a little bit. They don't really like having their ears like that. But you do see as soon as it goes in place and you finish kind of messing around with their heads, they do kind of like begin to notice, and there's not much sound and they don't seem to be as stressed out as they were before. So the leather caps seem to be working. As you continue on this path, these mountains, not like regular mountains where you can see bits of rock and platforms kind of hanging out and loose, especially like bits of boulders and pebbles and stones. Here, they are all sheer. They are all flat and almost unclimbable. Because of the wind that is blowing through, they have just eroded so much over the time that even the mountains at some points where you kind of like intersect an area where there is a clear open space between mountain and mountain, and the wind just howls through that area, that even the mountains almost look like sharp blades. And at some points you reach out and kind of touch it, and you can feel like if you were to dig your hand any closer, you'd probably cause blood to begin to drip through. It is that sharp and deadly in some of these areas as you traverse forward. But continuing, you can see that the shadow that now encompasses your journey makes it very hard to see where you're heading next. Axon, do you have dark vision?
Let me check. I think I don't have it. But features. I don't see it, so probably not.
Okay.
But if it will become like hard to see, I will cast light.
At points
Somewhere.
where some of the mountains kind of overarch each other, there are elements where the darkness is all-encompassing. So having that light cantrip will help in the journey moving forward, especially for the horses as well.
Yeah, well, I don't know how those horses are like, joined together, but like if it's like a wooden plank or something, I will somewhere like on the top of
In the middle.
or in the middle. Yeah, it's somewhere where I can reach. I think I need to touch it. So yeah.
No worries, you can reach down and kind of tap one of the middle struts that hold the two of them together so they don't spread far. The glow of that light begins to encompass, and you can see a bit more of your surroundings, a bit easier to see. What's everyone doing during this journey? Is anyone looking out? Is anyone up to any tasks in particular? How are you guys traversing forward?
Let's see. Before it gets too dark, I do some light work on the cloak I've been working on.
Okay. For doing the cloak, can you just roll a... So this will be a tools check that you deem equivalent, but using your dexterity, and it'll be at disadvantage because of how you're rocking around and moving in the back of the cart.
Yeah. If I work if I notice it gets too difficult to work on, I'll take the loss.
That's fine. You won't be punished if it's a bad roll.
Oh,
so roll again.
Forgot disadvantage.
Yeah.
Let's see. What did I get on that D4?
The D4 was a 2.
Okay, so that's a 7.
7. Okay. You're finding that the path itself isn't completely rocky, but the wind itself is just kind of like buffeting you enough where trying to make clear incisions and stitch together it is difficult, and you find that you're not going to get much progress. You might even tear some of the pieces apart. So you kind of like stop it for the journey and pay your mind elsewhere. How about the rest of you?
Helen would be kind of just kind of watching everyone a little bit in general, but watching specifically like the way we've just come and the roads and the mountains and stuff to like, if anything is legitimately moving, she wants to know that. Kind of just watching the environment quite closely.
Okay, roll a survival check or perception for me.
Okay, those are both the same. So let's go with this one.
Okay. You turn back to see the road that you have just traversed, and the shadows make it hard to see much of what's going on. But what you do notice is that wind. There are moments where the wind gets quite hot and quite cold, and elements of it almost create like a mirage in some areas where it makes it look like the mountains are swaying back and forth. Now, whether that is actually moving or not, you just see that there is this kind of like trippy vision of it just wobbling when mountains shouldn't really be doing that. So that kind of like clicks into your mind. As well, as you are kind of watching from behind, you do see that there are elements of the sheer rock that is like completely blasted away, sandblasted down to where it's just a flat surface. You do see slight grooves in the rock itself. Looks like claw marks, and things have scraped up their way to the top or down below. This could be the howlers, this could be something else, you're not sure. But it just keeps that wariness in you that there are other things in these mountains that call it home. Anyone else? Maycelia or Axon, what are you guys up to? Axon, I imagine you're navigating forward.
Yeah, I'm trying to ascertain the road, look on the road, so really focus on the road. So when you drive through like a tunnel which is like winding, you need to look there and try to avoid any rough bumps and stones.
I think I can only cuddle with Mushu in this position.
Okay, as you're kind of like canoodling with Mushu, I would like you to roll maybe this will be more of your charisma check.
Just straight charisma?
Yeah. 19. As you're kind of like placing your head against Mushu's, you almost begin to like scent through his senses as this kind of like connection that you have with your pseudo dragon begins to kind of link in for a moment. You can almost smell a few things. You can smell what's like coastal sandy beaches. You can smell the ocean, and you can also smell the heavy bits of dirt and sand that come with it. Secondly, you smell what's like matted, heavily dirty, waterlogged fur. And thirdly, you smell what's like rot, burning rot. That is like a bonfire's gone off and a corpse has been left on it. Just this rotten, burnt smell in the air. Not burnt toes.
You said that, not me. I'll say to the guide, is it normal that I can smell burnt fur and rotten toes?
You see she like turns around and looks towards you. Well, there's a lot of things in this place that feed and eat. The mountains, well, some things. There are these creatures that fly through the wind tunnels. They're called saber wings. They follow the wind tunnels and they can go from one end of the mountain range to the other west of Calzera to the east in less than a day. They're fast, nimble, quick. That means other things carry on the wind as well. So perhaps this is an omen of things to come. I don't know what else to tell you.
But why does it
Matisar,
smell rotten, man?
Could be the gnolls. Could be the gnolls cooking up a feast.
Lovely stuff.
Yeah, not the best. If you do see gnolls, they tend to reside down in the valleys, so we should be okay here. However, they do climb up every so often to find people like us and steal whatever they have and eat them. So let's hope that we don't get any gnolls. Yetis you can kind of deal with because they're a bit more slower, but gnolls, there's never just one. They usually come in a large pack.
That's some lovely stuff.
She also looks over, and another thing, probably won't happen because it seems like the stupidest thing you could ever imagine. But do not go swimming in the sand rivers. That is a bad thing to do.
Well, you know, after you mentioned it, I might need to do this.
Well, if you like getting devoured by serpents that, when you cut into them, divide into more and more serpents, then by all means, go for it.
Okay, noted.
The wildlife around here sure is unique.
It's
Sounds-
fucking disgusting. That's what you should say.
Trying to be nice, but I guess you're probably correct.
There's nothing nice about it, unfortunately. It's a harsh place to be. I wouldn't want even my worst enemy to be stuck here overnight. Which,
We'll try not to be then.
yeah. We'll have to pick up some speed if we think we're going to make it before nightfall.
Well, I'm not getting anywhere with my cloak with these winds going on, so I might as well keep a lookout.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then do
Helen
just
would
that.
as well.
All right. So either the two of you can roll perception checks individually, or one of you can roll at advantage. You can choose.
My passive perception is pretty high, but my actual perception bonus isn't super high. So if yours is better than a +1, I'm happy to.
Yeah, I'll just roll at advantage.
Yeah.
Also, I'll guidance myself again. 19.
19. Okay. You just begin to keep an active eye to the wind and to your general surroundings as you continue. Axon, you travel. You find yourself in this small kind of damp cave at one point, traveling through, and then you see the opening on the other side. With your light that's casting in this area, you can see that all of the surroundings begin to dazzle in brilliant colors, and now all of you see it as well. You can see almost like bright gemstones just embedded within the hard stone here of the Howling Mountains. You see like flecks of gold, ruby reds, emerald greens. You see all of these kind of smatterings of gemstones just embedded, encrusted into this pathway that you find yourselves in, this tunnel. You continue forward, but you all notice that there is potential of getting some resources here if you wanted to. There's some gold here in these valuable items.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure that we want to waste our time gathering the resources, but I mean, if you can do it quickly, do it now. But I won't be stopping the cart, so you will need to, catch up.
What type of things do I see here?
So if you want to make an active check, that would either be a perception or investigation check to see if you can find anything in particular.
Okay, perception it is. That's
23.
a 23.
You find probably one of the more rarer materials. You find two things in particular. You find a cluster of small diamonds that are just kind of like embedded in a rock that seems to be hidden away behind an alcove. And you also find this onyx obsidian shard which is like it's like a rhomboid shape, slightly long, and a single piece. But the two will need to be mined or carved out. The gemstones, the diamonds, you imagine they gather up a worth of 300 gold pieces, whilst the obsidian can be used more for other sorts of resources and weaponry. Obsidian is one of the more kind of deadlier additions to bits of armor, as well as adding pieces of it to your blade.
I see some diamonds and obsidian. I would try to mine them. Would anyone help perhaps speed up the process?
I don't have any tools suitable for that. Neither strength, which might, help in any way.
Oren, what sort of tools do you possess at your disposal? Do you have mining equipment?
Not specifically, but I feel like I can...
a chisel or something, perhaps?
Yeah, I have chisels. I should have a stamp among the level workers tools. I could use that with a hammer to try to at least get something to
pop out.
Yeah.
Okay, if you want to give it a shot. This will be a strength check, though, so this will be your athletics. But you can use your proficiency in your tool set. So it'll be strength plus your proficiency. Anyone else? You all see these resources as well. Is there anything that catches your eye or are you looking for? Or do you just want to continue on your journey?
Yeah, Helen will just kind of look at him and goes, "You know, it'd help, but strength is not so much my thing. I can come take a look at it for you, see if maybe there's certain areas that look weaker than others, but the actual mining is probably going to be down to you." And kind of pat him on the shoulder.
That would be helpful if I could find a better angle.
Yeah, so she'd come down and kind of take a close look at it and try and see if there's like certain spots that are easier to get at, or certain ways that you could just free the pieces without mining away as much. So kind of just...
So this will be either an investigation or a nature check. See if you can observe the minerals and see if there's any way of access. Let me see.
Investigation.
By the way, I generously carve them out of the rock. Not just separating the diamonds, but basically taking the cluster and refining it later, just so I can get done at moving.
Okay. So as the cart continues to roll forward with Axon on board and the rest of your troop, you jump off quickly, begin to hammer away, and it's not a quick process. No matter how high you roll, there is still a kind of an effort put into it, and you begin to hammer away. The entire thing probably takes Oren about 5 minutes to kind of like carve out, and then eventually this large piece of rock does fall into your hands, and it's a hefty bit of rock. Just roll a d20 for me as well.
Yep. Another 13.
11 to 13s today. As the rock pulls away, you can see that on the other side of it, it is hollow. There is another area which seems to be open to the elements, pretty much. Not outside, but it seems to be almost like a hole that has another space, another room on it. And having just a quick look, you can see that it's like descends down and up, as if one of these mountains is completely hollow.
I will, let's see, do I have light? Like, isn't the cantrip? Let's see. No, then I'll light my lantern and try to shine down the giant hole. See how far it extends.
You kind of, the hole that you've made is big enough for you to kind of hold out the lantern and look through, and you can see the light cascades forward and eventually hits the edge of this mountain, but you can only see like the very edges of like some sort of shine, as though there is like a moisture within the side of this mountain's range. The humidity just bounces off and refracts the light, but looking down, the light doesn't even go that far, doesn't reach whatever is down here. It is just completely hollowed out. And from your estimate, it goes kilometers and kilometers and kilometers down into the ground.
Well, we've got the rock. We should probably get moving before whatever lives down there comes up.
And as far as I know, you're alone there, or if anyone wanted to stay behind.
I have one person as company.
Mm-hmm. Helen's there.
Okay.
Helen, you hear that as you're investigating this obsidian piece, this shard. You begin to look at it and you find elements of it where, if hit at a precise angle, could just dislodge the whole thing and you can take it with you. It is far enough off the wall and just holding by a single thread that hitting that hard enough will allow you to take this piece with you as well. And it's probably about the size of your torso. It's quite chunky. You're muted, Brooke.
Helen would just kind of look at it and look at this whole situation and goes, yeah, this whole place is a bit weird, but this piece here, and she'd kind of take one of her crossbows and kind of point it out. If you jam your chisel in there and then hit it real hard, I reckon we can take this with us. It's probably worth a good amount given how big it is.
Good thinking.
If two of us, we can carry it.
I'll try to do just that. Push in the chisel deep enough to levy out the rest.
Mm-hmm. You can do so at advantage because of Helen's help.
Okay.
So go for it. Same check as before.
Should kind of hold her arm underneath it, so if it falls, it doesn't hit the ground.
Excellent. 23. Nice. You follow the instructions of Helen, and with one quick swift hit, unlike the diamonds, which took you about 5 to 10 minutes to kind of knock out a large chunk, this one is just one single hit. You hit it with a large bit of strength behind you, and it does kind of land in Helen's arms. Surprisingly light, more lighter than you thought it would be, Helen. As you hold it in your arms, you kind of cradle it like a large baby almost, as it's there, but it feels quite light.
Can I kind of turn it over from the side that was attached to the mountain and have a look at it?
Yeah, sure. If I'll ask you this time, Brooke, if you could roll a d20.
Let's see.
16, okay. You can see as that chunk kind of broke off where Oren had hit it, that element kind of gives way, and you see that same hole that he was looking through before. Another one has formed in the side, and it's not on the side of the wall, rather it's a hole that's underneath your feet, roughly. And you can see that the whole thing that you're currently standing on is hollowed out 100%. The floor, the side that you just hit, you're basically standing on a bridge.
Helen would just kind of look and go, I think we should really get going. I was hoping that was just a little hole, but this whole thing seems real precarious.
You might be right. Better not poke any more holes into it.
Maybe we should also avoid any magic that goes, because I have a feeling this whole thing's just gonna fall apart under our feet.
Let's catch up to the others. Give me the stone. I can carry it.
Should kind of pass it off and just kind of very carefully watch where she is walking.
Yeah.
And make sure to point out any places where he might trip and fall and break the floor.
Yep.
Luckily enough, you guys didn't roll high enough to break the bridge that you were standing on. You make it back to your cart, which is about a 6-minute walk away. You can still see it just at the entranceway as it continues its journey forward. But you carry both of these elements. So if you could write down in your notes, this will be for Olrin, you can write it in yours, that you have 300 gold pieces of loose diamonds. So if you had a spell component that needed one singular large diamond, this would account for that. But as well, it works for individual pieces as well. It's a chunk that can be used as a single piece. As well, the obsidian shard, just write down that you have a larger obsidian shard with you. and that will be given a gold equivalent later on when you get it appraised.
Yeah, Forge doesn't seem to work for me in that regard. I can't add to my inventory right now.
Okay, no problem. If you just remember it, we can do that afterwards.
Yeah, I'll write that into my notes.
Yeah. Okay. So the two of you begin to catch up with the cart. For Axon, Mayceli, and the rest of the gang, you've kind of hit a bit of area that seems to be a very turbulent area, where the mountain peaks are kind of interlaced over one another. There is a part of it which is stretched out, and it leaves a single piece of open space where you look to the left and the right, and you see almost like a river, like you've entered a canyon at this point. But this isn't a normal river. As said by Z earlier about sand rivers, you see this roiling, bubbling flow of sand that is about 200 feet below you, and it is just rushing past like it's water, a river just going past at a breakneck speed. As well, this bridge that you find yourselves on, this kind of like large place of land, stretches out for about 300, 500 feet, and it is just hail of wind just buffeting back and forth. So you might struggle getting past this area. You see Z kind of look over. Well, we can try and pass it, but we need to make sure that we batten down the hatches and we walk at a slower pace. It might be easier if everyone is on the cart for that. Otherwise, we can try and take a detour underneath the sand river. There is and she points over towards the right-hand side. There is a cave just over here that leads down and over to the other side. But that means we'll be entering the valley where possible gnolls are. Both options are available to you. I don't want to make the decision. Personally, I just walk it myself, but I'm with you guys. I have to escort you, so.
Me and Helen are back at the cart already, right?
At this point now, as they've analyzed the area, yeah, you hear the conversation.
Well, the way I see it, falling into the sand flood is pretty much certain death. I'll rather take the gnolls. I could fight them if need be.
She kind of looks at you and, well, you're braver than most. That is their territory. We don't find ourselves in there too often. And usually when we do, we go single file and we keep ourselves spread out. But a group like this, with a caravan, might be a bit tricky. But I'm happy to give it a shot.
Well, we are conspicuous, I suppose. So, you would suggest taking the route across the sand flood?
I would normally, yeah. But I don't want to be blamed for your guys' death, so this is your choice.
Oh, this is new territory for most of us. I'd adhere to your guidance, if need be.
Well, I'll demonstrate what these winds can do. And you see she kind of grabs a piece of the kind of stone on the side of the mountain, grabs a chisel, knocks out a piece which is probably about the size of your chest, and she just hurls it through forward, and you see it fly and then just disappear. You might get lucky, but it's dangerous. If you are going to go across with the caravan, you'd need to take that awning off straight away. That's like a kite. You go flying instantly.
Even without it, I suppose with this bigger card, it would be difficult to avoid the airflow.
Well, if you want to, we can try and make modifications. Make it through holes in the side of the cart. Allow the air to pass through.
I mean, it will take still time, and we will not reach before, the dawn. Or, I mean, the dawn. the end, or at least the exit of this area. So I rather than try to outpace the gnolls and try to go as quickly as possible there, than move here slowly and modify anything in the card.
Besides, I don't think I have the materials necessary to modify the card much. I mean, sure, we could poke holes, but that would only do so much, and the windshield is a bit too much for what we have on hand.
Okay. Well, it sounds like we're going into null territory. So keep your wits about you. And if you don't have dark vision, I pray for you. No lights.
I mean, at all, I cannot even use some
If you have
light.
lanterns, better. But these gnolls, they don't use any lights. They can see perfectly in the dark, so they'll be able to see us a mile away. But again, maybe we get lucky.
Well, let's test our luck then. And I will still keep the lights on, as I need to see where I drive.
Perhaps I should take the reins then. I can see well in the dark. And that... Well, signaling our position to every node down there at once seems like a reckless move.
Do you know how to drive the car? Or at least how to handle the horses?
Somewhat. I've accompanied my father when we were moving some cargo to the next biggest city.
Well, I don't know. Like, if you are confident in your abilities, then sure, take the reins. But if not,
as you're kind of going through
Leave this a try.
the other two, as you are kind of listening, preparing what to do. Macy, you were kind of keeping an ear out. Helen, you were keeping an eye out earlier as well. You looking towards the bridge, Macy, you hear something on the wind. It sounds almost like a high-pitched whistling sound. So something is traveling through that wind. It grows louder and louder, and then everyone begins to hear it. And even with the ear mufflers on, I will need all of you to roll wisdom saving throws for me. As you hear this, just this high-pitched sound just grow louder and louder.
finally some wisdom saves.
They are the most common save next to dexterity.
Oh boy.
Okay, 17, 27, 18, and Brooke.
Yep. 1 second.
I will also roll for Cal. Oh, wisdom save. Normal roll. Okay, so you see, Helen, you're the first to see this. As you all kind of like brace your ears, kind of like trying to cup over the ear mufflers as well. You're the first to see it, Helen, as you see this kind of like darkest shadow just fly past through the air over the bridge, and then you begin to see more of them. Just hundreds and hundreds of these. What you can see in like a snapshot of vision is what looks like a kite for a moment, or a flapping coat. You see this like stingray type flying creature, kind of shaped like a wing almost, as they glide through the air as fast as they can. You can see a silver almost line across the edge of them, the forward edge that flies through the air. And you can also see this almost like a tail that holds their ballast and weight, as some of them have it pointed up, some of them have it pointed down, and you see them just fly past. And they're quite large. They're not large, they're probably about the same size as you, but some of them do range in sizes. I would like, Helen, as you're the one looking, I'd like you to roll a perception check, and everyone else can roll a perception check as well at disadvantage, as Helen is the one that's kind of been looking out
Oh boy,
Okay.
22 disadvantage.
Both Ulrin and Maysili, the two of you see these almost like flying stingrays just fly through the air. At some points, you see them hit into the side of the mountains, and although they are like a flat piece of mountain, you see they almost fly through it, and they leave behind a mark as though a blade has just cut through butter. They just straight through, creating almost like a bullet hole, if you want to think of it that way. They fly through at such an incredible speed, and they have such a strength behind them, and the blade at the front of their body seems so sharp they can cut through even stone as they just fly through it completely, leaving no mark behind of their own body, just this silhouette of this like curved V shape as it's flown through. For both Axon and Helen, you see this shapes fly past, and then for a moment, time almost seems to slow down as you see one of many of these kind of like saber wings flying past. You see one of them seems to almost have humanoid features, and you see it's almost like round eyes that glow and shimmer in light look towards you for a moment, and it just flies past. Just flies in the rest of this cacophony of like confetti. It lasts for about 8 seconds, and then they are completely gone. They just carry with the wind, and they are disappeared completely. Meanwhile, you see Cal, even though wearing those ear mufflers like the rest of you, you see they grab the side of their head, and you see blood begins to trickle down the side of their nose. They are going to suffer some psychic damage. So Cal takes 5 points of psychic damage.
Noticing this, I try to cover his ears with my hands.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I'm all right. Oh, fuck.
Helen would just kind of look back towards where we saw a thing, and then just kind of look back towards Axon, who seems to be the only other one who was staring, and just like cock her head. That's weird, right? That's odd, even as far as odd things go.
I don't know. Honestly, I'm not surprised, like, seeing those type of creatures. Like, this realm is, like, a lot weirder than I imagined it, like, would be.
Me too. And would kind of start doing little drawings of the weird stingray creatures.
If you could roll, so this will be more for your kind of like photo memory and how you interpret drawings. Could you roll like a sleight of hand check for me? Or if you're proficient in like calligraphy or something, you can roll that instead, but using your dexterity. 23. As you're kind of like going through and drawing it from memory, as you now begin to traverse down into this hole, Axon and both Ulrin are kind of leading the charge. They're on the main wagon, handling the reins of the horses, and you begin to descend downwards. Helen, you're kind of like in the back with a bit of light just illuminated by your side drawing. And you can draw roughly the outline of one of these saber wings, and it seems to be that of like a manta ray, pitch black, silver line against the forward part of their body, but they just have this almost like flappiness to them, like cloth. Meanwhile, this individual that you had kind of drawn, you could almost see like a silhouette of a man, like a person, flying amongst this flock. And as you kind of like begin to draw the eyes, they just kind of glow, and you almost kind of instinctively draw like goggles of sorts, like a visor to help see through high winds. You just begin to kind of like create this image through like photo memory. Meanwhile, you descend down, and no longer are you affected by the high winds. So you see Z just kind of like gesture with her hands up to the ears. We're probably best keeping quiet as we enter down in their den. So you'll need to use your ears as much as possible to listen out. If you hear anything strange, just say it. We'll focus. We'll try and hide. We'll try and run. Whatever we'll need to do. But just keep an eye out, as well as your ears tight.
Yeah,
The
I'm gonna.
Go on.
Sorry, I'm just gonna preemptively take out my crossbow and just kind of stand sentinel, kind of.
Just kind of on alert, ready to go.
Yeah.
Okay. Descending further down and down, you find yourselves on this like slipway, basically. A slow descent downwards, not too rough, not too coarse. The ground itself has been carved roughly. But you can see at this point now, most of the sides of the walls have definition. There is bits of rock that protrude out, and it's not a clean, flat surface because the winds don't seem to penetrate down here. You do hear the odd kind of like wisp just enter through, but nothing too loud or erosive against the rock here. Continuing and continuing, I'd like whoever is listening out to roll a perception check, and whoever's using their eyes to roll a perception check as well. If you have dark vision, that'll be a straight roll. If you have no dark vision, it'll be a disadvantage. So you tell me individually what you're listening or watching for.
So basically, if I'm watching where we go in and try to listen, if anything like up ahead, it's what roll would I do?
If you're kind of at the helm of the reins, so
Yeah,
for you, I would ask for a survival check, as you are just using your kind of general awareness.
Like, I don't know, can I guide myself before that, or it's...
You have availability guidance?
Yeah.
Okay. What does your guidance look like?
Oh, well, you know, I think there will be like some, you know, lines like appear across his eyes and somewhere in the, like on the forehead, but some sort of like vaguely resembling the third eye, like, you know, the symbol like appear, but it's like in this like environment, it's barely noticeable. It's, you need to like look carefully to see that, but like for the cantrip, it's
like a faint outline. Yeah. Cool. So you can roll your survival check with a guidance.
Yep. Survival. Oh, it's F. 21.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind as you continue to traverse. Anyone else doing anything as you enter this area?
Yes, I'll use perception to watch out for movement specifically.
Okay, so that'll be a straight roll for you because you do have dark vision.
Okay. I'll also use guidance with a quick prayer to Morden. Morden, preserve us.
17. Okay, noted. Anyone else?
Helen would be listening because she doesn't have dark vision.
Okay, so if you could roll straight roll as well. This will be for listening.
Nothing on movement or anything like that.
Okay. Maysili, are you up to anything?
Watching, because I probably see a little bit better than the rest, because I have Devil's Sight.
Yes. So for you, I will ask for a perception check as well, straight roll, but that will come into effect. 12. Okay, cool. So as you begin to enter these winding tunnels, there are parts of it which get quite narrow, and you're having to kind of like go at a slower pace and make sure that the cart doesn't scrape against the side and create any twisting and bending noises. Z kind of helps out and kind of guides you forward alongside the help of Axon as you navigate your way. You can see Z doesn't seem to know these tunnels too well, and at some points is kind of like stopping at one point, looking around back and forth, and then she kind of like gestures forward and then gestures for you like guys to follow suit. But one thing is noticeable, Helen, as you are listening out down these tunnels, there is almost this echo and you're not sure if it's an echo from far away or close, but down some of these tunnels you can almost hear the just the laughter of, like, the faint laughter of something just in the distance. Nothing cackling, almost seems to be like a reverb of something, just an echo happening down these tunnels. At some point you kind of point your crossbow in that direction and kind of like wait to see if you find anything, just instinctively and prepared, but you don't see anything kind of come into view, nor do any of your allies see any threats. At one point, as you are traversing ahead, Mayceli, you see this first because of your extended dark vision. The area that you begin to enter opens up wide, opens up to the point that it is almost like an underground large cave that is being carved out completely. You see that there is elements of what looks like bits of wood and metal, handmade crafts, as though someone has been within this area, but it looks to be very long abandoned. So you're the first to see this as it comes up ahead.
I don't think she knows what she's seeing.
Okay. As you are getting closer, you get almost a better understanding of what you're seeing. You can now see what looks like a large metallic structure. You see what looks like treads and a large body. If you want to roll an Arcana or History check for me to see if you can understand what this is. (23). Further into this open space, you see one of these large creations, a fully developed, handmade, probably by gnomes, a mine, a drill, an automatic drill system. You see that it is inoperated. It doesn't seem to be working or live. There's no lights illuminated on it, but that's from this distance away. As you get closer, you can probably get a better understanding, but it's this large cylindrical device on these huge treads that are almost like tank treads. And at the very end of it, you just see this massive drill with several heads attached down the sides, all hooked and kind of large and used to scrape and barrel through something. The closer you get, the more you see that this thing has seen heavy wear and tear. Parts of the metallic casing has large scratch marks. You see bits of the glass that are used at the kind of helm position broken into and ripped apart. And so you begin to see that closer and closer. This seems to be an abandoned mine. Abandoned mine, you're not sure of who, what, where, or when, but this seems to be out of commission. And now at this point, those of you who are looking out, both Olrin as well as Axon, you can see the elements of this cave open up, and as well the elements which Mayceli had seen previously. You can see that there are pickaxes, there are mining equipment just laid around and abandoned, just left here. You can see that large metallic structure in the middle that just seems to be left and abandoned, large bits of dust and bits of like rock that have just been left on top of it, unused. I've seen no touch or anything. And this cave system just seems to open up wide and just keeps going and going. Even Mayceli, with her extended vision and devil sight, can't see where the edges of the walls go. It just keeps on going forward. So this, from what you guys can tell, is a large operation which is long left abandoned. As you arrive, you see Z just look around. Well, I didn't know this was here, I'll be honest.
Well,
Freaky.
now you know.
Yeah.
Are we close to the exit, or are we moving in the right direction?
No fucking clue.
You're right.
I've not been here before, so either we took the wrong turn, or this has just appeared in the last 10 days, which I don't think it has.
And perhaps we should backtrack a little.
We could try, definitely.
Helen would just kind of gently try to shush everyone a little bit.
Also, by the way, I pick up a pickaxe. This might come in handy later.
Roll an investigation check for me.
Me or Helen?
You, sorry, Oren.
Okay.
And we don't have lights on, right?
You do have a light for the horses currently.
Okay.
Oren, you find a regular pickaxe. Nothing special. Seen a bit of wear and tear over the years, but usable, serviceable. One thing you do notice is against the metal part of the head, there is blood marks, stained black blood marks that have been left on here for years and years.
Seems the miners were attacked by something. One wouldn't usually fight with a pickaxe, though. So we should leave this place. It seems to be primed for an ambush.
Helen, as you had hushed everyone and kind of looking back at the entrance, you hear that laughter again. Just once again.
It's time to go now, and everyone on guard. Quickly. And would basically push Ulrin back towards the cart.
Yeah. I'll also try to move silently, but quickly to the cart and move on.
Okay.
Helen would definitely now completely on a swivel, crossbow out, like just on a hair trigger.
Mm-hmm. You ready yourself, prepared for anything to come out. As you kind of turn and ready yourself, Axon, are you moving forward with the horses?
Well, as
So
far as
the entrance that you came from, that seems to be where the knoll this laughter is coming from.
Yeah, do we have any other way through this?
Can't see any currently. Perhaps further beyond where this large drill is and everything else, there may be something. But currently, with vision distance, you just can't see.
Yeah, I don't have any vision at all because I don't have dark vision, so
yeah,
it's pitch black for me. So I believe I will be somewhere like on the front of the cart, but I won't be driving. I won't be having those.
Then I'll take over the reins.
Okay. So Ulrin, you begin to kind of guide the horses forward. I would like a animal handling check from both Axon and Ulrin. Ulrin, you'll be guiding the horses. Axon, you'll be trying to calm them in this moment as you are kind of like next to them.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, thank you.
Okay. Axon, you are able to kind of calm them enough to the point where they do kind of like walk in darkness because they don't have dark vision either. They kind of like take the leads and go forward. Oren, you're trying to like manage which way they go and to basically lead them in the right direction. At some points you do kind of like miss the odd stumbling ground and you see like one of them kind of like hobble along slightly, trying to guide forward. At one point, as you are rolling forward, Helen, you hear that laughter continue to kind of build and build. You are away from the entrance of that cave now, and you have made your way to basically where that drill was. Maysili, where are you kind of looking? What are you up to?
Good question. I don't know. I think she's just trying to keep a general,
Keep an eye out.
Yeah, just keep a general eye out.
Okay.
Helen would very low whisper to everyone. Something is coming. It's getting much louder.
So as you whisper that to the group, Oren, you see below that the horses are kind of like moving back and forth in slightly different directions sometimes. And at one point, the buckling between the two, that piece of wood, you see it unclip. And one of the horses just begins to kind of like stumble out to the side, no longer hitched and tied to the rest of the wagon. The wagon slows down because the other horse cannot pull it with enough strength by themselves. You just see that horse begin to like wander slightly, unhitched, not really able to see or know what's going on. Whilst that's happening, simultaneously, Maysili, you see at that cave entrance that Helen is currently pointing a crossbow towards. You can see just on the periphery of your 120-foot vision, the entrance of that cave, and you see 4 hyenas, these like humanoid hyenas, gnolls, these kind of gnarly looking, you see matted fur across their entire body, and some of them have like almost like their jaws are slightly unhinged slightly. They've seen cuts and bruises, they've been damaged over time, wounds long healed and scars left behind their body, and they just kind of like begin to look around just the area. But currently the cart is stopped.
Yeah, not seeing the notes, I hop off and try to get the horse back in onto the cart.
Okay.
Can I like pull his arm? Am I close enough to pull his arm before he jumps off?
Yeah, you are.
I'll pull the arm and I'll point in the direction. Not trying to make a sound, just pointing.
Mm-hmm. I think, Olren, you understand that something's coming, and now that laughing voice, for everyone else outside of Maysili and Helen, sounds like it's reverberating and coming from all around you. You just hear that kind of laughter just kind of go around the entire thing, as this entire cave system is empty. So the voice is just bouncing off back and forth. So that bit of panic begins to almost kick in. But Helen, you hear where it's coming from, and Maysili, you see where it is as well. So what's the plan?
Can I see where Maysili is pointing?
Yeah, you can.
Can I fire in that direction?
Sure. You begin to prepare yourself and pull the crossbow tight to your body and aim. As you kind of like hold your breath and try to focus, just roll a perception check for me. This will be using all of the senses and the guidance and everything else. It would normally be a disadvantage, but the DC is set for this. Okay. You aim on top of the cart, look down, and you're seeing nothing. And now the cackling of the gnolls is becoming slightly disorientating as you're looking back and forth, unsure where to aim. Maysili, at this point, you can see Helen kind of struggling to aim, and you're kind of watching past her shoulder, and you see these 4 hyena hybrid humanoids looking around, and you watch behind them a large hand reach out and grab one of them straight into the cave that you came out from. You see one of them begin to like screech and turn back, and you see another hand comes out and grab all 3 of them in one go and pull them into the shadow outside of view. The cackling of the hyenas is no more, as those echoes just turn into this high whimper sound, and all of them go mute. You don't know what you've seen, but it was a hand, a 3rd hand, larger than a gnoll, which means it's larger than you. Just tear them away. Olren, that horse is beginning to move away further.
Yeah, this is a good time to cat rolls and get the fuck out of here.
So I would like you to. How are you going to try and get this horse back? It's moving away. The harness is like left loose against their body. You have to hold them in place and tie them up.
Yeah, try to. It's still has reins, so I try to get close enough to catch it by the reins and gently but firmly drag it back while hushing it.
Mm-hmm. I'd like you to just roll a charisma check. So if you have proficiency in persuasion, I'd allow that. If not, it's just straight charisma.
Okay.
I'll give you advantage because Axon is there. He's kind of aiding you in this.
Okay, I'll also give myself guidance again.
Okay.
So that's a 15.
Okay. You reach over towards the horse and try to bring it back to the placement. This is a bit of a lengthy process as you kind of like place them there next to the spoke in the center and begin to latch it back in place, the harness being fixed. At this point, what is Mayseely doing? You've just seen the four gnolls just get swiped away into the cave that you came from.
I want to ask C what the fuck that was.
Okay, roll another perception check for me. Let's see, to try and like pinpoint your vision. 11. You look intently in that direction, and all you can really see is you can, if you want to look closer and get a better view, you'll need to get out of the cart. But that means you only need to go about 10 feet away from the cart to see better, because it is on the precipice of your vision. So if you want to do that and look closer, you might get a better understanding.
I choose life. No.
Okay. So you don't really see anything, unfortunately. You don't see what this creature is, what just happened. You just saw these large hands just rip them away. In terms of what everyone hears now, whilst Ulrin is hitching the horse back up, you hear crunch. You hear snap. These gnolls are being severed, broken, pulled apart, and you begin to hear just like drops of blood or something on the ground. And at this point, you hear just this heavy chomping sound, and you all hear it.
Helen's just gonna go, might want to hurry that up. Anyone who's good with horses, go help. Hurry. I'm just gonna keep it fixed towards where the noise is coming from.
Mm-hmm. I would like all of you to roll a stealth check for me.
Oh god, no.
Not this.
Oh.
I'm going to roll for Cal as well as the other two NPCs with you.
It was nice knowing you.
Okay. Collectively, that's not bad. That's such a cope. Collectively, that's not bad.
All right. So we have a 16, a 24, an 11, a 4, a natural 20, a 12, and a 9.
Never
so
mind.
You wait. Orin, you fasten as fast as you can against the side of the horse with Axon by your side. And as the two of you are kind of helping, at one point you hear, you kind of pull the strap slightly too hard, and then the horse just kind of like slightly gives a slight whimper, and that crunching stops. And you begin to go quicker to try and get this thing in place. The strap is up. The strap is tight, ready to go, and you jump onto the cart as quick as you can. You begin to ride. The horses pace forward. Mayseely, you see just pushing through the cave as your vision kind of like fades away at this point. you see a hand grab onto the side of the rock, large, clawed, digs in to the actual side of this rock, heavily furred. And then you see something push forward, almost like a humanoid face, large and wide, but you can't get the detail as it just fades away out of view too quickly as the horses are now riding. Who is trying to look for an exit? Because you're still trying to find
Helen
an exit.
is has taken one knee, just crossbow focused out the back, so not Helen.
Okay.
Well, I can't see somewhere a little not longer. I mean, farther than 30 feet. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very focused on getting the hell out of here, so I'll leave that to someone else.
Okay. For this, I'm just going to check to see if Cal does have dark vision. I'm not sure if he does. Let me just check that one sec. He does have dark vision. So you're going to see, I'm going to use one of his abilities because seems to be the right time and place to do it. You see Cal's figure begin to turn into that of a more bird-like appearance. You see the face almost extend forward slightly, more feathers begin to bloom out from the side of his face as his eyes become more acute to long distances. So he's going to make a perception check at advantage to see if he can look and guide you guys forward. 18. Leading the charge alongside you guys, Cal begins to look around and his eyes dart back and forth, up and down. And towards the right-hand side, you see Cal taps your shoulder, Ulrin, points over to the right, and begins to kind of usher you in that direction. This area where you find yourselves in now, you've gone past the large mining drill. Now you are approaching an area where there's a large amount of potholes in the ground where someone's dug out and clear patches and has just kind of left the area almost like a minefield that's been dug up. Very tricky terrain to travel through, especially on a spoken cart. So for this, Ulrin, as you're guiding it, I will need you to roll. Up to you. How do you want to navigate this forward? There's a lot of potholes. You can either try and use your wits about you. You can try and brute force it. You can try and go slow. You tell me.
Let's see. I'll mostly rely on Cal's side and focus on the potholes. Only let him guide the general direction and make slight detours to the left and right to avoid the potholes.
Okay.
I try not to slow down so whatever's behind us can't catch up.
All right. I'd like you to roll a survival check for me then.
Okay.
I'll give you advantage because of Cal's aid.
Okay, then while shooting, while still whispering prayers.
16. Okay. You navigate forward close as you can. On occasion, the cart does just slightly hit some bumps and areas where it causes bits of the wood to buckle and bend at some points. And this is when both Helen and Maycelia, the two of you, begin to hear almost like heavy footsteps beginning to approach. Not at a rapid pace, but you can just hear slight movements as something is growing closer. At this point, Maycelia, you, with your further vision, you see this large entity, bigger than large, a giant, it seems, heavily matted fur, reach the mining drill at this point. And you see they almost wrap their entire hand around it. And they grip into it. You hear metal. Everyone hears metal just bend and warp because of it. And with this strength, you hear something break, like shattered glass. And then all of you see light. Like flashing red light coming from that mining drill. Almost like a siren light. And all of you who are looking in that direction, that would be Helen, Maysili, and I'd probably say Axon at this point, as it's the only light and any source of visibility that you've had, just shines around and around in a 360-degree view. And you see this large, humanoid, heavily furred, mangled, scarred across their body, this huge, monstrous Yeti. Bigger than any normal Yeti should be. You see it. Blood dripping from its large mouth, fangs, the knolls that it just consumed, crunching down on the mining drill. You see its eyes, a piercing white, stare in your direction, Helen, and the rest of your troop. You now get closer and closer to the hole in the wall. And at this point, Helen, Maysili, Axon, you see that flashing light. It repeats every 2 or 3 seconds. So you're seeing this image of this large beast grab the side of this mining drill, lift up the mining drill, and you see it lean back and looks like it's ready to throw in your direction. You're muted, Brooke. Brooke, you're muted.
Helen would just shout, if anyone has a really big shield right now, that would be incredibly useful. We're about to have something very large thrown at us.
Yeah.
Try and shoot, just shoot at him to maybe throw him off.
Okay. Roll an attack roll. What's the distance of your crossbow bolt?
Let me check. 100, 400, so...
Okay, that'll be fine. You can do a straight roll. He's illuminated as well. So straight roll. 20, okay. Who else acts in this moment?
How far away is it?
About 100 feet.
I'll join with an Eldritch Blast.
Okay, roll an attack roll. $24, okay. Who else is participating in this? Anyone?
I don't have anything with that reach.
Okay.
Instead, I try to speed up suddenly to create some unaccounted distance the giant may have not accounted for.
Okay, you hit the reins of the horses. They giddy up and then begin to rush towards the hole. You see Cal beginning to kind of lean in between the horses and guide them forward, kind of pushing them side to side. And you see the horses lumber forward. If both Helen and Macy, the two of you could roll damage as well on those attacks, because they both hit. Okay. You see the beam of light that Macy you throw hits the side of the fur, and you see it leaves a tiny little scorch mark as the light just continues to pass by. Helen, you fire one of the bolts and it lands in the side of their eye, and you see it just look for a moment, slightly stunned, as you give enough time for the horses to continue on their pursuit and run as fast as it can. With the bolt in its eye, you see it try to reach up and grab it, but its eyeball is massive and its claws cannot pick at it or pull it out. So you see it just begins to bleed constantly. And as it grabs the mining device, it then throws it in your guys' direction. That flashing light just grows closer and closer, and then it's going to impact against the side of your cart. Now, I would like Olren, if you could roll an initiative check for me.
Okay, let's see.
Okay. All right. You, as fast as you can with the horses at the reins, you barrel into this cave entrance. Helen, Mayseely, the rest of you, the flashing light of this siren continues to grow closer and closer, and you see the metal carcass of this mine, this drill, just hit into the side of the cave entrance that you've just run in, and you see it just jam itself deadly in. You see the point of the drill almost touch the side of your neck, Helen, as you're standing there on the edge. You see it just stop as the horses continue to barrel through as fast as they can. You were fast enough. With the attacks that you made, it gave a disadvantage, and it rolled a natural 2, which is not enough with its modifiers to beat you, Olrin. So you are fast enough to get out of dodge, and you continue to just go wherever you are going. The mining drill is jammed so heavily in that you have a large amount of time if this thing were to try and pursue you. But you continue in this cave system. Are you continuing at a rapid pace, or are you going to try and slow down?
I continue for a rapid pace for a while, but when I don't notice any signs of pursuit from the giant yeti, I slow down to a more subtle pace.
Okay. You kind of speed up at some point at the very beginning. Eventually don't hear any other sounds coming from behind. But now all of you see a light flooding in from further ahead. You see a soft golden light that seems to be shining. As you turn the corner, begin to slow down to see what's ahead, you can see that there is a path that opens up into this almost like a V-shaped room almost. You can see the sides of this walls have large crags in the ceiling, one running down the left, one running down the right, and you see flooding down them and cascading this golden light is the sand that seems to be just pouring down into this large, almost like bowl. But the bowl itself seems to just continue and never grow any higher. Some hole at the bottom is filtering all the rest of the sand to go down and down and down. So you're not in any trouble of getting flooded by this sand, but you have a platform that continues and then rises up. You assume where your position is to be underneath that river of sand, and thus you have only but a small bit of journey left to reach the point in which Z was referencing. But there's only one single path at this point. But now you've all slightly calmed down. The rushing sounds of the sand is what's bringing noise to you now. And you can just barely hear the faint wisps of the wind through those crags. But you are somewhat free at this point.
Okay. Since the sand is making probably quite a bit of noise, I'll take that opportunity to go a bit faster, cover more ground, while the noise of our character is masked by the sand.
Okay. You begin to issue the command to the horses to drive a little bit faster, to go at a faster pace. There is some distance to carry before you reach this kind of like cave outwards. And as you are going as fast as you can, the rest of you can see within the sand waterfalls, these sand falls that you have on the left and the right, you can see there's almost like dark shapes just moving within them. You see almost like serpentine shapes just roiling and moving in and out. And at some points you see almost like snake-like faces pop out and just kind of like hiss and whisper in your direction. But you can see their bodies are long and lively, yet they have like wings on the side of their bodies. You see slight wings that seem to be poking out every so often. And as they kind of like see you going at a faster pace, they just kind of like watch for a little bit as you just keep going as fast as you can. With this pace that you're going at, you eventually find yourself on the upside no longer in the caves. You have gone past the river of sand, and you're now on the opposite side of this trek that you find yourselves on. You are now greeted to what looks like the sun dipping as the sky changes from a light blue with a slight coverage of cloud to now almost like a darker orange color as evening is around the corner. Nothing too close, but it's approaching. But you are now on the main road once again. At this point, you place all the earmuffs back on as the wind is still howling, it never stops, and you continue your journey forward. Who is now leading the charge? Who is continuing this journey?
I'd give the reins back to Exxon.
Okay. Exxon, I'd like you to roll a animal handling check for me at advantage.
All right. Wait, where's my animal? 24.
24. You get the sense that through this kind of like moments of exhilaration and moments of fright, you begin to get the feeling that these horses are getting slightly fatigued at this point. They've been rushing, they've been slowing down, they've been doing above the average ability of a horse to try and get through and survive in these harsh environments. And they are starting to kind of slow down in their pace. But you have the ability yourself with this high roll to push them on or try and ease over. Easing over would mean that you go at a slower pace.
Yeah,
Pushing forward, it can
that's
quicker.
what I would like to do. Yeah, slow down to ease, to give them some rest, and
Okay.
it's like the worst thing to have when your horses would just lay down in the crucial moment. So I will slow down and try to calm them, and so they would get some rest, but still moving, of course, but not at that fast pace. The danger is over. I would try to convey to them.
Okay. You continue and continue at a slower pace, but the horses have enough gas in them to keep going. For Ulrin, you begin to notice specifically that some of these areas, the bits of mountain, bit of rock that seem to be just interposed in the middle of the road and just laid around, you can see there are carvings etched into them, fine details that not many people would notice. You can see that there is elements of Dwarvish written in them, as well as Giant. You can see lettering and almost like little citations left behind, like marks someone has branded or left their name on. You see names just written on them. You see people have left their mark, and they're all similar and in a way representative of how Moradin claims and imbues their spirit in items by signing and forging them with a name, giving them some purpose and basically life. These seem to be maybe apprentice Moradin priests or learners or professionals, amateurs, masters even, who have left their names branded on bits of area of rock. And you get the impression that where their names were signed, whatever statue laid there before, whatever monument they had created, has all disappeared. All of them have just, through the years of the Howling Mountains, just eroded completely. And there's no sign or remnants except for their names, which seem to have just a slight magical element to them to give them everlasting meaning. But it is almost disheartening to see that all of these crafts have, through time, been forgotten.
This area is like a graveyard. I say as I try to ingrain the names to memory.
Okay. You pull out a notepad, you begin to write down some of these names and see if they ever come up again later down the line. Continuing your journey forward, there are. If you could roll a religion check for me, Oren.
Yep.
$14. There's elements of this placement that give you the assumption that perhaps this temple is somewhere nearby. You wouldn't know where specifically. There's no landmarks. There's no writings of where it could be. And the mountains, they have side paths and winding roads that lead up the mountains, down the mountains, in the valleys. It's all very disorientating and you wouldn't know where to look. But because this place is here, you get the sense that the temple isn't far away.
Please, if you would help me keep a lookout. Those writings etched into the stone, those are names of Moradin priests, probably signing some work of art that used to be here. Which means the temple can't be too far.
Helen would keep an eye out as you're going forward, just still probably crossbow in hand, but would keep a lookout for the names as well as we're moving.
I also try to keep a lookout for signs that indicate some direction.
Okay. So either one of you can roll survival or perception checks. If you do a same check, you can roll it at advantage, but it might give you a different response. So perception or survival.
Okay, then I'll do survival.
Okay. Helen, you keep an eye out, but as darkness begins to overtake, it's getting harder and harder to see. And as well, you yourself are feeling slight fatigue now. Even though the earmuffs are doing something, just that perpetual wind against your face, all of you are starting to get that kind of like wind chill against your faces. You've all had that kind of blasted feel against your skin. Some of your clothes have been having to wrap around in uncomfortable positions to keep them from flapping into the air and making noise. So Helen, you're just feeling the fatigue at this point as well. Olrin, you calling out and looking for those monuments and bits of leftover guides for where the temple may be. You do find a path which almost like calls to you. There's something in a single path that just goes between the mountains. It's slightly away from the path that you're following, and as you're looking at it, you see Zedra shout, I think we've maybe got 2 more hours of a bit of light, but distance-wise, I think we can make it. I think we can make it before nightfall.
Oh.
Sounds good. Rather not be out here. Don't really want to be out here even now.
There may be a structure that direction, the temple.
She kind of looks over that direction. Okay. It might leave us a bit behind if we go there quick. We might be caught here in the night. If you want to go, we can go.
I look at my companions.
Helen's you like this is your call, not saying anything.
What does everyone else think?
Then
like, I don't know what to say. I would rather avoid going into that dangerous place, but if you feel like we can make it, sure. But I won't be risking my life, just so you know.
Of course, yes. Though, if you'd have a bit of faith in me and perhaps Moradin, I know some of you aren't that religious, then I'd ask, let's take the detour to the temple. I feel there's something important waiting.
Well, I don't have even the slightest bits of faith in Moradin, but I will trust you. Sure, let's see what this temple has in store for us.
Okay. So, seeing the main path, you take the diversion and head off to the right. The path is slightly more squat, tight in some areas, but the horses traverse it with ease. You wind left and right and left again, and you think you're almost on a loose end and there is no real temple ahead. And before you give up, as nighttime is getting closer and closer, you will see just where some of the mountains overlap, there is a piece of a structure that rises out far in the back, set into another mountain, and you see the face of a bearded man, slightly broken, top half completely sheared off, but you can see a beard. You can see a very manly, fatherly face, torn and broken, as it may be. And Olrin, you would know this to be a statue of Moradin.
Oh. Over there. See the statue. That's where we're heading.
As you head on closer, Z begins to speak up. All right. So what I know about this place is Yetis. Now, whether they're still here or not, I don't know. But keep an eye out. But also don't look into their eyes. If you look into their eyes, that will turn you to ice, and we don't want that. So try to avoid eye contact.
Wait. What do you mean? Like, if we meet any Yetis, we can't look them in the eyes?
Just avoid staring into their eyes. They have a mystical ability about them that draws you into looking into their eyes. Try to avoid it if you can. If you do, and you're not strong-willed enough, perhaps you end up like a statue. I don't know.
Do you see that ability in work? Like, is it really happened, or is it some sort of, story and...
Well, I've not had the pleasure to see a Yeti myself. I only know the stories and what people have told me. And a lot of the guys here that look after this place, they've lost friends and they've seen it. And I believe them.
Okay. So I will, I will trust you then on that regard.
Hey, look, the guys that look after the Howling Mountains in both Ira's Gate as well as the Southern Gate, Merrill's Arms, they're not going to bullshit. They're going to tell you straight how it is. They may have some notions in faith or something, but I take what they say very heavily.
I didn't mean to offend anyone or you. I just never heard of this ability. It's kind of interesting and weird in several ways. But yeah, I trust you, and you were you let us hear and a bit more, I think a lot more about this place than I do. So sure. avoid
Oh,
looking
no.
into their eyes.
You have a lot of trinkets on you, so maybe if you find one of these yetis or you kill one, maybe pop their eye out and see if it still works.
Good idea, but let's hope we won't find any yetis here, because I rather avoid meeting them.
Let's try not to get frozen. Getting closer and closer, you pass one of the mountains and then the second one. And then you find a open, almost like courtyard, long broken bits of stonework that resembled what could have been a mausoleum or some sort of amphitheater for studies or building works, a roof at some point, all made out of chiseled stone, be it marble or anything gathered and used within this space. You see the entire thing is crumbled. One side completely broken apart and left to shatters, whilst the other part still holds slightly tight, but it's all buckled on itself. And the path leading towards the main large statue that you can see ahead of you is slightly broken and uneven. It just seems to be another graveyard, as Ulrin had pointed out before. Something just long abandoned, broken apart, and hasn't seen anyone in years and decades even. But towards the left-hand side, where there is that slight overhang, there is somewhat of a path that you can travel with the horses if you wanted to. But the distance between where you are now and the entrance, which you can see is the main body of this Moradin figure, is about 400, 600 feet away. So there's a fair distance to travel.
What options do we have? Like either leave the cart and horses here and go like...
You can either go on foot.
Yeah, on
You
foot.
can go only a couple of you. If you want to go all together, there's a lot of options to choose.
Well, I never thought about splitting up, but yeah, sure, guys. Do we want to split up?
I would advise against it. The day has shown us that we don't know what awaits us in these mountains. Best meet it together.
Is there any chance we can go with the cart there? Or it will be
you
hard?
can. There's space to go through. You may have to clear some things manually to get the cart closer to the entrance. But yeah, it's possible.
Well,
It's also
let's
shown
do
us
this.
we don't want anything to happen to these guys while we're not looking, so I reckon we take them with us and just be careful.
Okay. So you begin to descend into this courtyard, this broken courtyard. And the things that you can see straight away is bits of statue. You see hands, you see faces, you see bodies, perfectly created, just left shattered on the ground. Something caused this large structure to just collapse into itself. And you can see remnants of what look like scorch marks. You can see some fight has happened here. You see bits that have just eroded and disappeared completely. And you begin to all get an image painted in your mind of a clash of both sorcery, spells, as well as physical altercations have just cut through this area and has just left it a ruin. Continuing through this left-hand side, you are now completely underneath the overhang. And at some points it's a little bit dodgy, as you can see at any point it could give way if enough pressure was given. But you'll give a good eye, make sure that it's safe enough before you traverse. You'll also begin to clear parts of the rubble away for the cart to continue further in. Whilst you are doing that, who is moving the rubble?
I definitely do.
Okay.
Definitely not me.
So whoever's moving the rubble, I'd like you to roll an athletics check and as well an investigation check.
Okay.
Oh,
Help!
If Helen is seeing him struggle this much, she'd hop down and kind of like land surveyor the area, and just kind of be like, "If this is blocking it this much, surely we should move this one first, right? So if you just like push that way a little bit and just starts project managing the situation."
I'm
I'd like you to
trying, but
roll-
there's a pillar on there.
if you could roll a survival or an investigation check, and to see if you can manage.
You know, if you move it around the pillar like this, it works better. It's just a little bit jammed. So you just kick it, and we'll just kick a section of the rock to move it. And then see it moves, and then you can roll the pillar.
The pillar rolls. With ease, Helen begins to step in and just almost kick things out of the way. And then it just all seems to fall into Helen's plan. One by one, she sees the Matrix, and the Matrix is conquered.
The
path-
Tetris specialist.
The path is now somewhat cleared, easier to traverse. Helen, as well, if you could roll an investigation check again to see if you can find something else. This was to micromanage.
My passive investigation is 21, by the way.
25. You can see, you find two things. You find a shield. You find a shield hidden underneath a piece of stone that had fallen on top of it. The shield looks perfectly maintained. It looks like it's been untouched, even though it's been here for decades. As soon as you pull it and kind of like take it free, you can see that it's attached to a bone. An arm is just kind of like held into the holster still and holding tight as to not let go. The body long dead and snapping off as you pull the piece of armor free.
Is there anything like on it, obviously, like any patterns or symbols or paint or anything that's still there?
The actual shield itself is round. It's circular in design, and it has two layers of colors. The outer ring seems to be of a golden color, and then the interior ring seems to be almost like a bronze. And then it meets in the very center a conical shape that almost looks like a spike. The entire thing has etched runes along the edge of the outer ring, and it seems to have a slight kind of warm glow to it, as well as you kind of like snap off the arm as you pull this shield free. You see on the hand itself, there seems to be a ring that seems to be in quite good condition as well.
Should kind of hold the shield up and like hold it kind of like a bowl and kind of pull the arm out of the shield and pull the ring off, but still keep the bones in the shield.
Mhm.
And just kind of turn around to Orin. I found this in some of the rubble. There's someone's bones still mostly there, but they've been dead a very long time. So I think maybe we should just keep moving this stuff and would kind of take the bones that were attached to it and kind of put them into the side of her bag along with the ring, and then kind of just hold the shield up so Olrin can see it.
Would you mind showing me that? Perhaps there's a name inscribed.
The shield? Yeah, and would kind of hand it to him to look at, because she, I'm assuming, cannot read whatever language the runes are in.
Yeah. Olrin, on a quick glance, without spending too much time looking into it, you can see the owner of this item was called Hedrick Kalan. And as you kind of like pull the arm free, you get the assumption that perhaps Hedrick was the individual who is buried here underneath the rubble. The shield itself, you need to do like an identify to understand what it is, but it is clearly magical. There is some magical properties to it. This ring seems to be one which was same Hedrick's as well. The ring itself seems to have some sort of attunement based property to it. Again, identify will need to be used to understand what it is.
Yeah, somewhat disregarding the items, I kneel down to the now buried skeleton.
Helen would take them back.
With a small, I offered a small prayer to Moradin. And I kneel in front of the body of Hedrick, your loyal follower that you may take him into your realm. And to you, Hedrick, may you allow us to take your shield and ring, so that tools may not go unused.
You say that little prayer, and you feel a warmth begin to grow inside of you, and it just slowly fades away.
I do another quick nod. I believe we have permission to take the shield and the ring with us. They will be more use to us than to him.
Helen would just kind of nod, as she's already kind of thoroughly looking these things over, kind of climbing back in to the cart. And can I actually do like sit them down and pull out like a little notebook and actually try and do like a formal Arcana check on them? Like
Sure,
aside
you
from
can.
like they're probably magical, try and get some more info on them.
Yeah, go for it. Roll an Arcana check. 16. You kind of get the same understanding that Olrin did. Olrin has an innate ability to understand this because it's of his faith. You pick up the same info. The ring seems to be based. It seems to be focused on a magic that ties to the person, and this shield seems to be usable between anyone. What the shield can do, you can see on the inside there seems to be almost like a trigger that can be activated, and it seems to be almost attached to where the runes are on the side of the ring. To what purpose, you're not sure unless you were to try and activate it yourself.
Okay.
But with that, you continue, and you grow closer, and eventually you find yourselves on the other side of this rubble, this open courtyard that's all broken apart. You find the large statue of Moradin. You see he himself has been depicted in a large heavy set of armor, his arms extended outwards and wearing just kind of like a helmet, it seemed at one point, because you can see parts of the face where down the left-hand side there is visible markings of something atop of his head, but the rest of it is broken off. And you see laid on the ground, one of the arms broken on the floor, one of the bottom legs also left to rubble on the ground. All of the rubble seems to be building up to a point of where staircase can be seen between his legs, rising up as though he is standing over and protecting the temple itself from harm and evildoers. For Olrin, as well as Maysili, there is some sort of power which almost floods out of places of holy standing. There is just this aura that emanates from them. However, this place is completely devoid of it. There is no sense of Moradin's presence here. There is no otherworldly being holding court or bringing law and order to this place. It is barren. It has no warmth to it at all. The staircase leads in to a larger place which is built inside of this mountain. And to access it, you need to go on foot. The horses could not go up the stairs, unfortunately. So if you wish to go in and have a look further, you would need to do so on foot.
Let me see if there remains a trace of Moradin in the sanctuary. At the altar, perhaps. We would have to leave the horses here for a moment.
Z, can you stay with the cart and look over? Or you want to...
Yeah. I don't need to go inside of any place of faith, so I can stay here. I can look out, and if anything comes, I'll just shout, scream, panic.
And probably Tuku as well, if you don't mind staying here, because I think it might be dangerous inside.
He nods. Yes, I don't want to go in.
Great.
I'm already sweating.
I will later tell you of what I find.
Yes, please, thank you.
Do you have any means to notify us if anything goes into your direction? If any danger appears?
He taps in his head. I can talk over some distance.
Great. So be sure to use that if anything happens. And don't forget to gather this sweat. We might use it later.
No. No.
That's a shame. But alright, yeah. Stay safe and we will be back shortly. I hope we won't be there for long.
Okay. So the group of you begin to climb over the rubble.
Yeah, before I do that, I grab my holy sigil and offer another prayer to Moradin, looking up at his stony figure. I now tread into these forgotten halls. Let mine be your eyes to watch upon this place again.
As you mutter that prayer and look up to this fatherly figure, there is two depictions of Moradin. One, which is the most common, is a father figure. He is the father of creation, the father of the gods, and the father of the people. Everything stems from both him and Sahanin's union. He created the body, she created the soul. When you stare up at him, muttering that prayer, you do not see the father, yet you see the protector. You see almost a conqueror of sorts. Moradin's more feisty, ferocious side. And you see the full ensemble as it should have been. You see the large helm across his head, and originally painted beautifully, depicting his entire ensemble. Golden, bright white chest piece, helm matching the same, and a large black beard across his quite bulbous face. But his eyes are the most intimidating. A stare, one of a father's scorn, looking forward, angered, and disappointed. But that kind of instills you with a strength to continue forward and to find out what happened here and to rescue anything that may be inside. We all head in, and that's where we'll pick up next time.
Before we head in, I just want to pet both of the horses and say, like, hey, Apple and Pineapple, yeah, please be safe. And...
Oh, God!
We'll be back, don't worry.
Game's not
Yeah, that's it. And
there
then
we go.
Can head off.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then we'll pick up that probably next week, hopefully. And we'll see what the schedules are like. But thank you very much for watching, if you're still here. See you next time. Bye.
See ya.
Bye.